and product versus safety life cycle and its alignment, functional safety management, so that is management aspects, and then supporting process, safety implementation during development, wherein I will be covering the concept phase, system phase, also hardware and software development and associated safety analysis and so on. And then finally, like overall summary and conclusion that I'll be giving you. Okay. So today, automotive industry facing a lot of challenges to meet safety, comfort, efficiency, performance, etc. Also, there is an increasing trend of making more and more automation in the modern cars, such as like automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, collision avoidance, lane keep assistance, parking assistance, airbag systems, engine control unit, power steering, and many more, many other kind of automation in the modern cars. Today's automotive is a highly electronic intense systems, and it takes around 40 to 50% of your overall cost of the vehicle. So when we make more and more automation, we need to ensure the safety in high priority, which brings more and more complexity in the automotive systems. Hence, we must avoid or minimize the malfunction of the electronic system so that we can avoid the accidents. We'll try to understand these malfunctions and its the possible impacts. So functional safety is the absence of unacceptable risk due to hazards caused by malfunctional behavior of these systems. So due to the failure of the hardware and the software components in the system, so there would be an unacceptable risk. I mean, the accidents are happening. So the ISO 26262 providing the guidelines to achieve the functional safety by reducing the risk in the acceptable level or the tolerable level, I can say. For example, to consider the AEB, automatic emergency braking. So one of the malfunction is unintended emergency braking. That may be due to the internal failure of these EE systems. So if unintended braking happens, there would be a possibility of the rear end collision. So in case if that kind of incident happened, the possible impacts would be minor or major to the driver as well as the co-passengers within the ego vehicle or the subject vehicle. And also the ego vehicle and other vehicle get damaged, and then the environmental and then the infrastructure also get impacted. The other side is like the other road users like pedestrians, cyclists and etc. Also the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer, also get impacted. Hence, it must be required to avoid or minimize the accident so that we can avoid all the impacts. So we will also try to understand in detail about the impacts on OEM. So let us see here. In case if there are accidents happen due to malfunction behavior of EE systems, there will be a huge recall which considerably affects the schedule, the cost, and importantly their brand reputations. Also there would be a legal implications for the automotive OEMs as well. Hence, the OEM has to ensure that the design, production, and related faults are adequately detected and mitigated by effective way. So that is the expectations. Now the challenges with the embedded engineer to develop such a safe product along with the safety engineer and safety team, right? So how to avoid accident due to the malfunction of EE systems, right? So that is what we need to look at. So in order to avoid accidents, we're supposed to avoid or minimize the EE systems related failure in a tolerable level. There are two major category of failure, such as a systematic failure and a random hardware failure. The systematic failures can be traced back and identify the root cause, and the same can be corrected by the changes in the design. And it is applicable for both software as well as hardware. Also, we can reduce the systematic failure by applying the process. The quality process related aspects and development related process step-by-step procedures and design guidelines for various level. The system level, hardware level, software level, and so on. And also there are various verification method which includes like review, analysis, simulations, testing, and etc. Also the traceability, which brings you the consistency across the various level of product development. Okay, so by applying this, we can able to reduce the systematic failures. Similarly, random hardware failures can happen at any point of time unpredictably due to the stress, aging, wear and tear during the useful lifetime of the hardware element or the product, I can say. Example, it may be the failure within the processor or within your memory chips or maybe resistor, capacitor, and so on. It is also like with respect to the various failure mode, I can say, for example, resistor, open, short, and drift, and so on. That kind of failure can happen. So we cannot eliminate the random hardware failures completely, but that can be detected and mitigated in the design, so that the remaining risk can be tolerable as per the target given in the standard. So we can reduce the random hardware failure by following the required technical measures. For example, different architectural implementation and bring the reliable component. For example, as I said, resistor, capacitor, and so on. So you get it from the reputed vendor and ensure the quality of the component, and then make the robust design by applying various process guidelines, steps, and so on. And also bring various level of safety mechanisms which can detect the failure and take the system into the defined state or something like that. For that, bring the safety mechanisms. And also, if it is a maintainable product, then you also apply the maintenance procedure. If it is applicable, then you can able to reduce the random hardware failures. So we understand the type of failure that need to be addressed by our design. Now, so if we try to avoid these failures, probably we can also avoid the accidents. So ISO 26262 giving you the guidelines to define and follow the techniques and methods strategically for the entire product life cycle, and this enable the robust design. Okay, so let us try to understand the ISO 26262 2018. So ISO 26262 2018 Automotive Functional Safety. So I hope most of you know the prior version ISO 26262 2011. It covers only 3.5 ton passenger vehicle. But in 2018 version, the scope has been expanded to other segments as well. So the additional requirements related to trucks and buses are added, and separate parts are added for motorcycles and semiconductor IP development. So this is the wider scope of ISO 26262 now. Okay, so this is the overall development framework from ISO 26262 2018 edition, second edition. There are 12 parts. Part 1 is vocabulary, wherein detailed definitions are given for various terminologies used in the standard. This is very important when we discuss with the various project stakeholders across various parts. So the common terminology can be used so that everyone can understand in the same way. And then part 2, management of functional safety. So functional safety management at the various level, such as organization level, project level, and also after SOP. At each level, the various activities are defined to ensure the FUSA management happening effectively. And then coming to part 3 is a concept phase wherein the item definition, hazard analysis, and the functional safety concepts are elaborated. And when I come to part 4, product development at system level, it covers the left hand side of the V as well as the right hand side of the V. I think you can able to see the blue color one, dark blue. So the left hand side of the V, which covers the technical safety requirement and technical safety concept and associated with the system design, I mean the architecture overall. So the other side, the various level of item integration and testing and the safety goal validation being covered by part 4. And then coming to the product development at hardware level, the complete hardware development and various aspects of the requirement which need to be covered in the hardware level, and also associated the various safety analysis like architectural metrics as well as safety goal violation metrics and so on, that is being given here. And the right hand side of the V for the small v, where the hardware module level testing and the integration level testing, those are covered. And for the part 6, product development at software level, so start from software requirement to up to the implementation. Okay, so requirement, architecture, unit design, implementation, also associated with the various safety analysis like freedom from interference aspects, also DFA, dependent failure analysis, and so on. Also the other side, right hand side, it covers the software unit testing, integration testing, and embedded testing. This is the coverage of that. And then coming to this production operation service decommissioning aspect. So basically it gives a detailed information with respect to that, what are need to be the consideration when you are developing a system, where you need to also consider about production, operation, service, and decommissioning aspect, and not a lot of instruction and the manual that need to be generated out of it. And then coming to part 8, where the supporting process. So the way how the distributed development process and related aspect need to be considered, and the safety requirements, verifications, and the reuse strategy aspect like software component qualification, hardware component evaluation, and proven use argument. Also, in addition to that, there are the new requirement with respect to the TNB vehicles. I mean, the trucks and buses related requirements. And then coming to the 9, it is safety oriented analysis, part 9, wherein various safety analysis being explained, and also the SL decomposition and aspects and the way of approach is being explained. And then part 10 is overall guidelines for ISO 26262, and part 11 is the semiconductor related aspect of it. In this, they covered the way of bringing the failure in time calculations with respect to multiple standards. Also, it covers various other IP related aspects like ASICs, PLDs, and so on. And then part 12 is the adaptation of ISO 26262 for motorcycles. So this is the overall coverage from the 2018 second edition ISO 26262. And then we will try to understand the product and the safety lifecycle alignment needed for the same. Okay, so how it is both are aligned? Most of the time I'm getting the question from the different participant that how these are aligned and how we supposed to execute. See, for example, this is the product development life cycle along with the safety aspect of it. So the quality management system and the safety management systems, also the supporting process, are applicable for all the phases of product development life cycle. So in the beginning of the project, in the beginning of the project, left hand side V, the project system engineers will start with the stakeholders requirement and generate the detailed system level requirement by having a kind of a different the requirement elicitation process. In that perception, like creating the boundary diagrams and interface diagram, functional flow diagram, also the sequence diagram, and so on, through which they will be deriving the requirement. At the same time, that the safety engineer will get those inputs from the system engineer by understanding about the boundary diagram and the related interfaces. The internal interfaces and the external interfaces, what are required for the systems, and also the functions applicable to the system. So that they will be getting an input, and then they will be start developing the item definition, hazard analysis and risk assessment, and also they will be creating the functional safety concept. And then it is coming to the the TSR level aspect. So where you will be deriving the technical safety requirement from the functional safety concept and requirement, and then you will be also developing overall the system architecture based on the TSR and TSC, which you are creating at the top level. So once if that system level, this is, you can consider as a system level. Here you have the preliminary architecture with the technical aspect of it. So at this level, you will be performing a system FMEA and FTA kind of safety analysis, where you will be find out the weakness of the architecture here. And then based on that recommendation, again the requirement will be updated, and based on that your architecture also get updated. Then you are coming to the detailed design, where actually the hardware and software will be developed at this level. So at this detailed level, so here I have given the different color mark. One is the blue color denoting the hardware development, and the yellow one is for software development. At this level also you will be performing various safety analysis like FMEA. It may be a design FMEA with respect to hardware as well as software. Also the FTA, fault tree analysis, and then the FMEDA. So FMEDA is comprises of multiple analysis like single point failure metrics, latent point failure metrics, also PMHF or maybe EEC. So yeah, these are the analysis you will be performing at this level and understand that whether you are meeting the required target or not. So then the implementation, and then you will be in the right hand side start do the unit level testing, and then again it will go for the integration level test where you will be verifying the architectural level testing and so on, and then it will go for the integration test uh, at various level of integration, I can say. So hardware level, I mean hardware and software integration, system integration, vehicle integration, and so on. And then finally, you will be having a safety validation where you will be verifying the safety goals and the fault tolerance time interval and what are various assumptions that you had in the beginning. So all you will be validating at this level. So also I would like to explain you that the other aspect that the traceability, that is also one of the important aspect that need to be also considered. So the traceability, so vertical traceability that will start from the stakeholders requirement to system requirements and the lower level requirement and so on up to the lower end. And then the test cases also the horizontal traceability that need to be also maintained here. So I don't want to discuss much about the vocabulary related things. So straight away I will start with the part two, safety management. So functional safety management, actually it covers, there are three different aspects of management. One is organizational level safety management, and then project dependent safety management, and then the safety management regarding the production operation service decommissioning aspects. So in the organizational level, I would like to highlight few of the important aspects wherein the organization is responsible to establish a FUSA process and policy aspects. So first thing is, yes, the organization should have the functional safety related process and policy to be followed for safety critical projects must be available. And also the organization should provide the required infrastructure. I mean, the software and hardware development related, the tools what are required and the equipments for the testing and so on that need to be produced. Also, they are responsible to establish the safety culture across the organization to carry out the safety critical projects. So safety shall be an integral part of organization process which enable the engineer to comply their activity in accordance with the ISO 26262. So that's what they have to bring it. So also they will be doing organization level tailoring activities. So I mean here the tailoring activity is ISO 26262 giving a detailed number of work product that need to be generated out of for the project relevant scope. So here the organization will tailor that what is required and what is not required, or what is being followed and what is not being followed, and with the proper rationale why it is not being followed. So such kind of activity coming under tailoring process. And then coming to the project level, so the safety manager must be available and he is responsible for creating the safety plan and managing the team and control and monitoring the various safety activities and also interface with the external maybe audit agency or somebody to interact and understand and regular follow-up and so on. Also interact with the customer. This is how the safety manager role. And then after SOP, there are various, I think, instruction to be given to follow the safety aspect. I mean, I can say the characteristics related to that need to be provided. It is also expected to have a kind of competent person during production related activities to understand the importance of functional safety and handle uh, with the required instructions and so on. Also, the field monitoring aspects also need to be fulfilled. So that is the expectations. So we will see some of the important activities of the project, dependent safety activities, in the next few slides. So one of the important the aspect that I wanted to discuss is safety plan and safety case. So the safety plan, basically what are content it's supposed to have. So first thing is it has to be created in the beginning of the project based on the scope of your project, which includes the list of tasks required for the safety life cycle and define clear responsibilities and interfaces for the safety activities and define safety organization structure. I will show some example in the next few slides, and schedule with the start date and end date and fix some milestones and so on. And then the prerequisites, what are required for each and every activity, and what are the techniques and method which you are going to follow, or something if you are not following, give the proper rationale for that, and also bring the confirmation measures how it is. Also you can add or you can include the audit, the safety audit plan and assessment plan that you have. So that need to be available. And for example, in the safety plan, you plan some of the activity. For example, you consider the safe, the software development is your scope. Then you have the software safety requirement, and then software architecture, and then software unit design, and then implementation and associated safety analysis. This all you might have listed out in the safety plan. Now you need to produce those uh, the arguments. So here the arguments means what are your activity you are you planned in the safety plan. You need to develop those work products. Those work products are listed out here. That is the argument. So those argument need to be placed in the safety case. So the safety case also is a kind of the initial document which need to be created, that may be a draft initially, and periodically it has to be updated based on your the development which is keep going. So that is the expectation from the safety case aspect of it. So as I said, both are to be created in the beginning of your development, and both are live document, need to be periodically updated based on the way how the project keep going, and based on that it need to be updated. So the safety plan may not be required to be a separate plan. You can also integrate into your project plan. So there is no restriction like that. So you can add into your project plan because most of the contents are very much similar. So you can include into that. So that is the idea behind. And this has to be created by safety manager. And also he has to get updated periodically. So like based on the plan, you will be creating the argument, and you will be having the safety case. But safety case, you may not be required to put all the document. So basically the work products, the argument you will be placing in your configuration management tool environment, and associated path will be captured in the safety case. So that's how you need to maintain the safety case. Okay. So this is one of the major or the critical document that you need to keep track it. And from the auditor point of view, he will be looking at the safety plan and safety case. whether all the planned activities in the safety plan is available, and what is the status of it, and what is the correctness and the completeness and so on. Okay. So this is basically you aware that the project development team, how it looks like. So there is a development team and then independent the verification and validation team. Those team usually report to the project manager and then delivery manager and so on. This is just a typical the way of the organization structure may looks like. So in addition to that, the project safety management, I mean, there is a safety team who is performing the safety analysis and so on, and closely working with interacting with the project development as well. And then he will be reporting to the project safety manager. He is the project specific safety manager who is interacting with the project manager and keep updating. And also he is reporting to the organizational level safety management. It may be a different level, the BU level and then organization level and so on. But here I'm only showing the organizational safety management aspect, where the organizational safety management also keeping touch with the external functional safety assessor. Sorry. So the external the functional safety assessor, so who is interacting, and once if that interaction initiated, their project safety manager also keep continuing discussing with the external the functional safety assessor and then keep following it up. Okay, so this is the organization structure. And then another important aspect of what ISO is talking about is the confirmation measures. So confirmation measures involves, there are three activities. One is confirmation review and the functional safety audit and functional safety assessment. So functional safety, the confirmation review is basically independent review with respect to ISO 26262 compliance aspect. There are two different review which ISO basically talks about. One is the verification review and the other one is confirmation review. Verification review basically looking at the technical aspect of the review, whereas the confirmation review is basically looking at in the compliance with respect to ISO 26262, those aspects. And then functional safety audit. So the audit basically looks the process followed to create any work product wise. For example, you are performing HARA, hazard analysis and risk assessment. So from the auditor perspective, he will be looking at that. What are the inputs that you considered to create the HARA, and what are the different steps? I mean, the process which you followed, step-by-step instructions, and how you arrived overall, and what is the strategy, that approach, that you followed during that particular work product. So in that way, he will be looking at from the audit perspective. And then the functional safety assessment. The assessment basically looking at the the safety goal set and the project completely achieved or not in the judgment aspect of it. Okay, so the audit has to be planned in the beginning of the project, because usually the team always thinks the audit and assessment at the end of project development, but it is not the case. So it is expected to be, they involve the assessor in the beginning of the project, where you at least having certain level of work product up to concept phase, and then it has to go for a periodic audit where milestone based or maybe monthly ones or something like that, that need to be performed, and based on approval, then again it has to continue for.
Yeah, hi Mesh, hi Basana. Good evening.
Okay, so yeah, we'll see that these are some of the important aspect of the functional safety management aspect that I'm explaining now. So now we'll move on to supporting process. I will not be covering all the points which is given in the supporting process aspect. However, I would like to highlight some of the important aspect what it talks about. Number one is that the distributed development interfaces. So now we all know that the way how we are working very much distributed in a different the geographical zone where we are interacting and exchanging our data and working together. So if this kind of the scenario, how we are effectively managing and effectively delivering the work product with the required complaints. So that is important aspect. So in that one of the thing is that the supplier selection. So for example, we have a customer, I mean OEM. So within below that there is a tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, and so on. So when we have a different level of supplier, how we are assessing their capability, and then we are including them into the the functional safety kind of product development, because that is also one of the important aspects that need to be compliant, right? So the supplier assessment aspect, so we need to understand their quality management system, what is available and how they are following it and so on. Also the capability of functional safety. So by having understanding about their team size and the tools which they are having and enabling the functional safety, and what is the prior experience, have they handled any safety critical projects and how effectively they handled, and also the previous safety assessment in which they have participated, and what is the level that whether it is SLA or B or whatever, and so on. So that is the kind of things that we will be understanding from them. And then also there is a common terminologies and the way of interactions must be there. For example, there is a request for quotation, then it should also consider the kind of the ISO 26262 bringing a different work products terminologies and the expectation for that work product and so on, and related aspect that need to be the consideration when the customer interacts to the tier 1 or tier 2 1 to tier 2 and so on, that need to be followed. So example they have given the kind of item definitions and safety goals, FSR, TSR. So this kind of terminologies and related content must be provided to the next level, so that the next level also can follow the similar things. And the execution related, here also there are multiple way of model of working it's happening. So for example, there is a OEM customer may have another set of team in a different geographical zone, but still they are all exchanging their data within the customer related process and the customer related infrastructure and so on. In that case, they can consider as a single organization. So in that case, single safety manager, single safety plan would be sufficient. But the other case, it may not be like that. So customer may be allocating to the task to the supplier to whom how to completely develop the product and give it back. So in that case, the supplier also should have a separate safety manager who create the separate safety plan with respect to the scope of the project. So in that way, it has to be worked. And then the assessment point of view. So it can be performed by the customer or even the third party can perform, and it is in the premises. It basically at different stages, I can say, and you know the continuous kind of periodic online audit, and then site audit where you will be also say that eyewitness testing and so on, that kind of things you will be performing, and then say that okay, the product meeting the required things and so on. And then after release for production, evidence to the customer process capability related to production, and the responsibilities on resolution on FS related issues after SOP. In case if something happened after SOP, I mean the production side, or maybe after the useful user, the operation time. So that has to be notified to the the concerned party who developed, and the customer and so on, so that that can be fixed. And exchange of production monitoring records, like it may be incident related aspect and so on, that need to be produced. So this is the related to the distributed development interfaces related. And then the next topic is with respect to the safety requirement. This is one of the very important aspect that I would like to bring it, because so the requirements must be correct and consistent. So then only your product will meet the required things. In case if there are some issues with the requirement, then your product also will be a problem. So having said that, we need to clearly understand that what are need to be followed and strategically, so that the requirement must be correct and consistent across the product. So there are three important activities which are involved for requirement related aspect. One is requirement elicitation process, and then requirement analysis, and then requirement management aspects. So when I say requirement elicitation, it's a strategical way of deriving the requirement from one level to another level that need to be followed. And then requirement analysis, after deriving the requirement, what are various aspects that you supposed to verify that requirement correctness. For example, there are something like hierarchical structure. So the ISO, the way how it derived the requirement, also by nature it is a hierarchical. Like it starts from the safety goal, and then FSR, TSR, hardware, software, like that it is strategically being derived hierarchically. And then traceability, completeness, and then the consistency aspect of the requirement, and then maintainable, and then also the known duplication and so on. And individually, each and every requirement must be like unambiguous, comprehensible, atomic in nature, eternal consistency, and feasibility point of view, whether it is implementable or not, and then verifiable, it's a testable or not. Such kind of things we will be also ensuring each and every requirement correctness. So the atomicity of the requirement is very important to ensure the testability aspect of it. That is also one of the important things. And then coming to the requirement management aspect, also the ISO brings the importance of bringing the various attributes for each and every requirement. That is also one of the very critical and important aspect, I can say. So basically, like you will be having for each requirement, what is the SE level of that, and what is the kind of, the status of the requirement, whether it is already approved or reviewed, or whether it is a draft, or it may be a TSR level requirement, or maybe software level, hardware level, and then how this particular requirement can be tested, at what level it can be tested. Sorry. Is it fine?
No, fine, sir.
Yeah.
Fine.
So in that way, the requirements are very important. And also, apart from that, I did not really include the slides here, but it is also mentioning the method to derive, create the requirement, write the requirement, and so on, and verification of the requirement aspects. But yeah, So I'm not covering here, but maybe the later seminars may cover. Okay, and now I am the concept phase. Now strategically, that so far what we discussed is the management aspect and the process aspect. Now we are in concept phase where our product going to be developed. Start from the concept phase. In the concept level, there are three different work products. The item definition. The importance of item definition is to define the scope of your project and the boundary. This is very, very important aspect. So in this, you should have a boundary diagram where the internal and external interfaces must be captured. And then you should also list out the various vehicle functionalities which is applicable for the item. And other important requirement may be like legal requirements, operating conditions, and the requirement you expected from other systems, and the requirement which you are allocating to the other systems, and so on. So such kind of information must be available. This is the first document I can say from the safety aspect of it. And then this would be the input for performing the hazard analysis and risk assessment. So where you will be strategically attaching the malfunction and then performing the situation based analysis and then determining the AC level and so on. And then once if the safety goals are identified from the hazard analysis, for that safety goal you will be start writing the functional safety requirements. Based on that functional safety requirement, you will be developing the functional safety concepts for the safety goals. So it also includes for example, you need to mention the for each safety goal, safe state, fault tolerance time interval, warning concept, degradation concepts, and so on that you need to bring it as an attribute for the safety goal. Okay. Now, this is very important aspect. Okay. So before starting your development, the product development, you are determining the risk in terms of AC level. Okay, that means you are fixing some target for which the product need to be developed. That is AC determination. The other side, once if the product been developed, you are going to verify whether the target which you determined in the beginning of the project, whether you met or not. That is called evaluation. So look at here. So the risk determination before the design, you need to identify the hazards and then you need to start assessing the risk by understanding its severity, exposure, and controllability. So in the standard, they have given this matrix table where they are bringing that these three aspect: severity, S1, S2, S3, and the exposure E1 to E4, and the controllability C1 to C3. With this, the criticality is going like this. Maybe you can see my cursor moving. So the severity is a less severity here. The safety integrity level less here. And then here, this is the maximum safety integrity level based on the combination of severity, exposure, and controllability. So in the automotive industry, we call it as SLA to D. SLA is less critical, SLD is highly critical systems. Okay. So now you determined for each and every malfunctions, the hazards, and based on the situation analysis, you come out with the severity, exposure, and controllability. Based on that, you also understand that which ASL level you are. For example, you take AEB, automatic emergency braking. So For the automatic emergency braking is a function of the feature. For that, the malfunction is unintended AEB. That is the malfunction. For that, the safety goal would be avoid unintended AEB. Okay, so we have function, malfunction, and associated the safety goal, what it's supposed to be. For that safety goal, which SL level it is, maybe SLD. That safety goal that I assigned. Now, you determined for your AEB functionality for the unintended malfunction what it's supposed to be a SL level, criticality level. Now you need to determine, evaluate whether you achieved or not. For that, this is the risk evaluation during the design. For example, based on the target, you created your system architecture, and then you are developing your hardware. When you are reaching to the hardware level, like you will be having a schematic, bill of material, and you already have the safety goals and various other documentation. Based on this input, you will be start performing the single point failure matrix, latent point failure matrix, PMHF. So based on that, when you do the analysis, you will be also considering what are the prevention mechanism and detection mechanisms available in the design, because you already have the design. You know what are the safety mechanism implemented and what is their capability in terms of detecting the failures and so on. Based on that, you will be verifying each and every component here and then assessing the residual risk. How you are assessing the residual risk? By having the below table. There are targets given in the standard for single point fault matrix, latent point fault matrix, and also this is random hardware failure target. Okay, so when you are reaching certain level here, you will be coming here and then see that whether are you reaching the target given for various SL level. So you can able to see, SLB, SLC, SLD. Similarly here, BCD. SLA does not have any kind of metric target. Okay, it is only required the techniques and method need to be followed. Apart from that, there is no specific target available for SLA. So once if you understand, you already meet these values. Okay, that would be your acceptable residual hazard or residual risk, I can say. Okay, up to that you will be keep going to your design and then keep updating and then again coming and assessing your risk. It's a kind of iteration you will be performing here, and then again it will be given to the after reaching the acceptable limit, that is tolerable risk, I can say. Okay, fine. In the beginning you determine something. During the design you also analyzed by doing some kind of analysis through which whether you are achieving or not, that you understand now. And finally you need to also validate it. For example, at this level you might have assumed many parameters, like your driver controllability factor you might have assumed, and there are some external measure you might have assumed. So like that, there are some assumptions that you made during this time. And similarly, this prevention and detection time, the detection parameters also, like based on the standard and your level of experience and so on, that is also need to be validated by doing a various testing here. So when you are doing the safety validation, you will be verifying all the assumptions. Also by injecting the various fault injections to the system, you will be also verifying the safety mechanisms and its capability. So in that way, this is a kind of closed loop where you will be verifying it. This is hazard analysis, risk assessment, also the other metrics aspects that I can say here. And then product development at system level. So system level, as I said, it covers, there are two sides. One is the left hand side and right hand side. So left hand side aspect, you will be having a technical safety requirement and then technical safety concept, and then finally you will be creating the overall technical architecture structure. So it will be typically looks like this, like power supply, voltage regulator, microcontroller, maybe if it is a cell level, higher level, you may have another microcontroller also. And then the signal conditioning, where the input which is coming from external world will be conditioned and then given to the controller. And then there would be an ignition key. There are some communication transceiver, watchdog, crystal, the clock, and also there are some driver circuit output side. Okay, so like that you will be having the various analog and digital components in your technical safety concept. It's a higher level. It's not lower level, like which component and how the circuits. This and all will not be available at this level. That will be in the hardware design level aspects. Okay, so this is the technical safety concept level. And in the right hand side of me, as I said, you will be performing various testing at that level, integration test. Also, at this level, as I said, you will be performing various kind of safety analysis qualitatively. So there are two different analysis which talks about. One is qualitative and the other one is quantitative. Qualitative is very much the subjective, and it may not have any numbers, but the quantitative very much, you have the target and you have the numbers that you will be performing in the hardware level. So at this level, you will be performing FMEA, FTA, also the dependent failure analysis to identify the weakness in the design, and then keep updating based on the recommendations. And then now we are into product development at the hardware level. So the hardware level, there are two level of design, I can say. One is high level design, the other one is low level design. When I say high level design, it will be like a kind of the block diagrams. Okay, which different blocks would be available with you, like the power supply block, and then the controller, and also driver circuits. The block level. So like that, you will be having a number of blocks in the hardware aspect. So that in the high level design, I can say. And I say the low level design, it would be a schematic. You can find various symbols like resistor, capacitors, and other components like transistors and all, and also the chips and so on. So at this level, so when I talk about the hardware, the evaluation, the SL evaluation, where I was explaining to you the various analysis. So before that, you will also performing the qualitative analysis at hardware level, like design FMEA, design FTA, and also the DFA, because this is also very much a qualitative wise analysis that you will be performing to understand the common cause related and cascading related aspect of failures. Okay, so this is hardware level. Also, importantly, when you are bringing up with the architectural notation, it's very, very important. There are various notations are available, like 1 out of 1, 1 out of 2, 1 out of 2D, or 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, something like that. What it signifies? So it signifies the input versus output, how it is being connected, and what is the redundancy level aspect. Also, importantly, it considers there are two aspects of it. One is the safety aspect of it, and the other one is the availability aspect of it. So, for example, now we are going more and more autonomous system. Okay, when we consider the system has to take a complete responsibility, then you should also go for a higher level redundant system, where even in case if any failure, it should also allow the systems to run or to continue the operation for at least a certain extent. Okay, so for example, here it takes the input of three different module. Okay, so when it takes three input and having the voting and then delivering the output. In case there is a failure in module 1, but still the system can operate based on the input which is available or the given by module 2 and module 3. Based on that, it can take the decision and continue the operation. So in this way, it's a fault tolerance kind of system or fail operational system. Okay, but in case if you go with like 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2, something like that, then it may not continue the operation. It may be the fail-safe system where it will take your system into the safe state in case if any issues. Okay, so for that the redundant architecture is required. Also, in order to avoid the common cause failures, you may also use the diversified implementation. For example, the module 1 may be, for example, with one technology, it may be a passive sensor, and this may be the active sensor, and this may be a different vendor. So like that, you will be diversifying the way the technology that sensor being developed or something like that. So that will bring you the diversity aspect that will be helpful for reducing the common cause failures. And also bringing the more and more diagnostics mechanisms wherever applicable. That is also again depends on the SL level. For SL level, it may not be required, maximum safety because your target is less. Also, the criticality we understand is also less, right? Based on that. So when you go with the higher SL level, then you need to think of more and more redundant systems to avoid or maybe the effective way of detecting the failure, also ensuring the failed operational system aspects. And then coming to the evaluation of hardware metrics. So this is what I was explaining earlier. So you will be performing the single point failure metrics, latent point failure, PMHF, and also evaluation of each cause. Okay, so this is aligned in that way. So for example, this is the overall metrics that we need to do. In that, there are two metrics. I mean, the evaluation of architectural metrics. The other one is safety goal violation metrics. So in this, these two are required. Okay, so it is connected with the AND gate because both are required based on the AC level. And this is, the safety goal violation metrics there are two methods. One is PMHF method, or the other one is evaluation of each cause, the second method. So either of the one can be followed to comply with the ISO 26262. Okay. And then coming to the product development at software level. The software level, I would like to bring that the software safety requirement aspect of it. So there are different aspects. The requirement must be created and to fulfill the correctness and the completeness of all the perception of the requirement. So one is safe execution of nominal function, and the second one related to the achieving the safe state, also maintaining the safe state aspect of it. And third one is the various safety mechanisms related, detection, indications, mitigations of safety, and then the timing related requirements, also the self-monitoring to ensure all the peripherals are working fine or not, such aspects. Also the onboard and offboard, the test during production operation service decommissioning aspect. Okay, so these aspects need to be considered for software safety requirements. And then requirement to architecture. So there are some important aspects are highlighted here for the architecture. So the hierarchical structure, like when you create the architecture, you may be in the architectural tool, maybe the enterprises architecture or Rhapsody or such kind of tool, where you can create a hierarchical level of architecture. And also you can allocate the safety critical level. I mean, SL level, also you can allocate the requirement to the architectural elements. So in that way, the consistency can be maintained. Also, the high cohesion and the low coupling, basically like grouping the relevant architectural component and that would be the ensuring the high cohesion. Also maintaining, if something is not relevant, component that would be separated, that will bring you the low coupling aspect of it. So also it talks about the uh, scheduling, right? So various different schedule. For example, in the safety critical systems, we may use the priority based kind of scheduler rather using FIFO or maybe round robin and so on. So that may not be much appropriate. And also the interrupts, we need to restrict the interrupts. So that is also one of the constraints. Uh, but the hardware interrupts that we cannot, completely avoid. But whereas the software interrupts that can be, restricted. That would be the good way. And then here also at this level, we should also perform some of the safety analysis, like the FMEA and the freedom from interference aspect that need to be. Also, the dependent failure aspect, the common cause and cascading failure aspect also need to be analyzed for the architectural level. So some of the error detection at software level that we are going to discuss. The plausibility check, which includes assertion checks by means of comparison. See, for example, you may need to verify your vehicle speed. So what you do basically, you read the vehicle speed, the same times you read the engine speed, and you will be comparing both the relative speed and then take the decisions of appropriateness. So this way, the plausibility check will help you. And then the detection of data error, the ECC that you can consider also the CRC related aspect of it. And then the external monitoring, for example, like you will be having a multiple component, basically like most of the time the microcontroller you will be using to monitor for various the hardware related failure. Similarly, you will be having an external watchdog where it will verify or it will monitor the microcontroller functionality, and in case if something is going wrong, then it will take the action against that. And then the monitoring of execution time, scheduling. So there are the timing and execution related aspect. There are many issues. So for that, we should have the timeout sequence monitoring. So those aspects are required. And then the diversified software design. Maybe you may have two different controller, for example. In that case, you can allocate two different teams to develop. One may be like hand code, the other one may be model-based development, something like that. So that will bring you the diversified implementation. This is applicable even the hardware also, two different product from two different vendor. Those aspects we can do. And then the error handling mechanisms, which basically like static recovery. So, for example, this can be again like forward recovery and backward recovery kind of aspect. For example, if something, for example, if I consider the function 1, function 2, function 3, something like that, in case if you are middle of something and it is stuck and it is taking a longer time, if you wanted to come out and completely reboot, then it takes a huge amount of time. Okay, that may not be really the good way to go. So for that, you will be killing only the particular task in which you are stuck, and then you may be going forward or backward, and then keep continue execution, so that you can minimize that time of execution and rebooting and so on. So in that way, that will helpful. And then the graceful degradation. So degradation from one state to another state, maybe if you make it sudden change, it would not be really a good way to go. So rather you reduce the features or the functionality step by step, and then finally reach the respective state where it may be safe. So that is the right way to do it. And then the independent parallel redundancy. So you can have, similar to that earlier, we can have. And then the correcting codes for data, you can consider ECC. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is the implementation aspect that we discussed at the left-hand side of the V for software development. When I come to the right-hand side, I mean, follow the testing and verify the software units. Here the expectation is First, you verify the software which is being developed by doing the static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, also perform the unit testing uh, to ensure the correctness of the software unit being developed. Also, along with that, there are various level of reviews that they are talking about with respect to various ESL level. So, like walkthrough, inspection, semi-formal verification, formal verification, and so on. Also, there are various tests. I mean, the requirement-based test, interface-related test, equivalent classes, boundary. Like that, there are various test method also need to be added into this test. Also, you will be following the fault injection test. That is also one of the other important tests to ensure the product to be right. This all with respect to the recommendation given by the standard. For example, here if you look at this table, for each ASIL level, ASIL A, B, C, D, each level, based on the recommendation given in this table, for example, plus plus means highly recommended or mandatory method that need to be followed. Similarly, if I say plus, then it is a recommended method. And if it is a O, is not recommended, but still if you follow, there is no issue also. You can follow that. Okay, so like that, the recommendations are given with respect to ASIL level that you need to follow. And also, as I said, this is the the test case derivation methods, which ensures the completeness aspect of or the coverage aspect of the test cases. That is very important, I can say. Okay, that will bring you the consistency of the process which you are following. So the analysis of requirement, equivalent classes, boundary values, error guessing. So these are the different methods that need to be followed to create the test cases. So similar to the metrics what we have seen in the hardware, because hardware we can quantify, because each and every component like resistor, capacitor, your microcontroller, every component has its definite failure in time value, that is failure data. But here in software, we don't have such kind of things. Okay, it cannot be quantified. But here, by doing the testing, you can also bring some metrics. Okay, so these metrics are related to unit testing, the statement coverage, branch coverage, MCDC coverage, and so on. It is also again based on the AC level. Similarly, at architectural level, again, another two metrics also need to be demonstrated. One is function coverage, another one is call coverage aspect of it. Okay, so this will ensure the correctness of the software which you have developed. Okay, that is expected by ISO 26262. And then in the development aspect, I have to bring maybe a little bit about the software tool classification and qualification also. Here in this aspect, what ISO basically says is, for our development, for the safety critical development, we also use the various kind of the tools, software tools, which basically used to ease our work. Okay, start from the requirement to even up to testing, we will be using various tools. Sometimes the tools may be vendor provided tool, or sometimes it may be in-house tool. But all the tools which has to undergo for this kind of analysis to ensure it's even in case if the tool brings some output with an error, that also can be able to detected and mitigated by some means. We will try to understand. For example, you take any of the requirement management tool, where you will be importing requirement and you will be having a traceability and exporting requirement and so on. You take the use cases, and each use cases you try to understand in case if this use case misses some requirement when it is importing. Import is a function, I mean the use case, when you are importing the requirement into the tool, whether it would make any issues, whether it would miss some of the requirement. You just to suspect it may not be necessarily be always be like that. You just to suspect in case if it is missed, whether will it going to be an impact for my target or not, whether it is going to impact my safety goal or not. In that way you need to analyze each and every use case and then see whether the tool impact is there or not. If you say impact level 1, it is TCL 1, then it does not require any further qualification. But in case if you identify TI2, it is going to be an impact, then you need to also look for the detection. So the detection may be within the tool or maybe within the organizational process by having another kind of testing or maybe a review process or whatever it is. So that you need to bring it as a detection capability. Based on that, again, you need to arrive what is the TCL level. In case if you identify TCL 2 or 3, then it requires additional qualification. What exactly the additional qualification? So for example, if you are buying from the third party tool, so the third party tool, how many years or how that it is there in the industry and how widely used this tool and what is the probability of failure of the tool and so on, that you need to check. So that would be one kind of evidence. The other evidence, the tool also developed in accordance with some of the international standard, and also similarly other kind of qualification also given in the standard. So that need to be taken care, and based on that, it would be justified to use in the safety critical product development. So that's about the tool qualifications related. And then overall summary and conclusion that I would like to bring it here. So first thing is, okay, now you have understood at each level what are need to be done, at least a high level. So here I would like to summarize what exactly the evidence which you need to produce for going for audit and assessment, for the getting the certification and so on. What importantly that you need to produce. In that aspect I am going to talk. Okay, first thing is, so the organization should produce the quality management systems that is being followed for the specific project, which is a safety critical project going to be a safety certification or the assessment and so on. For that, the quality management aspect records and the evidences must be demonstrated. And the next evidence would be the safety management aspect of the record and evidences that need to be demonstrated. And these two, the quality management and the safety management is the support to avoid or control the systematic failures. As I said in the beginning, the systematic failures due to the human mistakes where the process not followed, okay, the person dependent. But when you are bringing the quality management and safety management, it's a process driven techniques where if you apply this, then you can probably avoid or control your systematic failures effectively. So these two are important. And then these two must be applied to the technical safety relevant evidences. When I say here technical safety relevant evidences, you can consider this is the entire product development V along with the safety V, both together. So here you are developing the product, okay, with the safety and also applying this two different process related, like management related aspect to your V development activity. Okay, if you bring those and apply here, okay, so this all will, that the technical method and measures which you are applying during the development, which also reduce the random hardware failures. So in the beginning of our discussion, we said we need to reduce the systematic failure and the random hardware failure. If we avoid this, then probably we can also avoid avoid the accidents. That's what we discussed. So by having these two, we can reduce the systematic failure, and by having this technical aspect, then we can also reduce the random hardware failure by having a more and more safety mechanism and detection capability and so on. So if you have all these things and along with the proper evidences, then I can say it could go for safety compliance. Okay, it can achieve the safety compliance. So that is what I would like to say. Okay, finally, I would like to conclude that in addition to product development activities and artifacts, the functional safety requires some of the following additional things. One is it needs some additional roles and responsibility like safety manager, assessor, and so on. Additional software tools to perform various safety analysis, traceability, and etc. That is also need to be the addition. And it requires more and more work products due to which you should have a proper template, guidelines, checklist, and so on that is required to meet functional safety. And then the safety measures against various failure modes, that is also you will be considering at a various level and then bring such kind of aspects. And then additional the test cases and test method to ensure the consistency, because it also says that how to derive the test cases and how to perform the various tests at various levels and each and every level what need to be ensured and so on. So in that way, that is also again an extensive way of doing that, that will bring you the completeness and correctness and implementation of the safety. So we understand that there are many things as addition, around maybe approximately around 30% of your overall cost will increase. So even though there could be an overhead cost on the development process and the improvements, the functional safety guidelines would enable greater benefits to an organization in the long run perspective. It is important for organization to realize that achieving functional safety is about more than just meeting the criteria of each shell statement in the standard. So safety means abiding by the fundamental principles of safe design and having a proactive attitude towards safety will enable safe systems and environment. So thank you very much for all of you joining the webinar series from SAE. Once again, thank you very much for all of you, and I am ready to take your questions.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, any questions from the participants?
Hello, hi, this is Kailash from Continental. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I had a question on tool qualification topic which you have just shared on the slide. I could see only TI1 and TI2, but as per
Yes.
the ISO 2622 standard part 8, there is also TI3. Is it missed or is it not considered here for this presentation?
I hope you little bit mixed the TCL level and TI level. It looks
No, no,
so
no.
TCL level.
No. TI itself, TI1, TI2, and TI3 is there. And it is mentioned in the ISO 262 standard. I have it open right now. Yeah. I just want to know why it is missed, why TI3 is not considered. You can also refer the standard from your side. This is as per the latest standard, which I just checked in the part 8. 11.4.5.2.
Just a minute.
Yep.
I'm just referring 2011.
Yeah, which that's
Where
what
this
I'm
is
also.
TI1 and TI2 only there. Yeah. ISO
Okay, this is
248
the
2011. I am just referring.
Yeah,
Which
that's
part you are referring?
2018 actually. Maybe this
2018.
is a dated one or I don't know.
Hi, Raghavan, this is from KPIT. Just now I opened the.
The TI2, additionally, will go with the TD1, TD2, TD3. But first hierarchy is TI1 and TI2. TI2 generally.
Yes, yeah, TI1 and TI2 only available, but
Okay, can I
but
read
from
what is
where you are getting, I'm not really understanding. TD1, TD2, TD3 available. Okay, but you are bringing something TI3, but I'm not sure like from where you
from
got
the
it.
standard?
Yeah, which page?
Page 24, part 8.
24.
If you go to 25,
Maybe you can share the link.
No, 24 it is not available. No, it is not giving about that, right? So, I mean, you are talking maybe older version or maybe something not released version, maybe. I'm not sure which version you are really looking at. Because in 24, it is a different section for me. Okay, it's a released version. I'm not sure which version you are really looking at. See, this, for example, the way how you are saying TI 1, 2, 3, in the different standard, it is available in that way because I don't want to bring the different standard aspect here. Okay, I wanted to stick with only ISO related. So that's the reason I'm not bringing that aspect here. Okay. So I'm not sure which version of the standard or something that you are referring, but in my, the released version, I don't have such, but I heard about this TI 123, but it is not in automotive standard. It is a different standard that I have gone through.
Combination of TP and TI2 is what according to the standard referring to Shivakumar. This is Ramya here.
Yeah, Ramya?
Yeah, I'm adding on to the question that was asked before. So, what is the combination that you're getting, or the result that you're getting on combination of TI2 and TD3?
Yes, correct. Okay. Yeah.
According to
So
TD3.
if it is TI2 and TD3, then you will be getting a TCL3. Okay, two confidence level 3.
Yeah, I think that was the question that was asked before.
No,
no,
he
that
is
is not the
asking TI
question.
itself. So that is not
I'm asking.
available as per my understanding. Okay,
Yes,
I'm
but
not
I
sure
think
what.
your
Which
understanding is
we are
right.
referring
I
into
also
prelude.
the standard doesn't have
Mentioned
level.
Multiple voice, I'm not able to
in
hear properly. So multiple voice, I'm not able to hear properly. And now
Okay,
I cannot hear
it's
anyone.
okay. Maybe this is the standard which is published within Continental. So maybe I will check internally. But I also have the PDF right now. I have pasted in the chat as well. Anyway, I will check internally whether it is a released one or a draft one or how is it. But
Yeah,
we are
please.
using this standard for our current development anyway. But it's fine. I will cross check once again because I was just skeptical by seeing the presentation. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, right. Any other questions from anyone?
I had a
Yeah, hi,
question.
Shivam here.
Yes, please.
You first.
Yeah, I mean, we are getting the fit from the customer.
Hmm.
if we want to adopt that, like let us say if I'm using some microcontroller of some customer, and if I am taking that controller to my project, do I need to consider their fit as it is, or do I need to consider it according to my application?
See, for example, failure rate aspect. For example, if it is the passive component like resistor and capacitor, we need to understand whether it is a base failure rate or based on your the way how the component being used in the circuit. Okay, so if that failure rate being calculated according to the way how it is being used in the circuit, then you can use that directly. Okay, in case if it is a complex component like your microcontroller and so on, then you need to also understand that, because the microcontroller is the general component which may have a number of peripherals and components. All you may not be using it. So having said that, you need to understand that is there anything that you are not using in the microcontroller, then based on that failure rate that you can deduct from the overall failure rate, and then you can start using it.
Yeah, you mean then I need to take into consideration my application also.
Correct. Application in the sense,
My
what are component you are using it. For example, you are not using a CAN controller, for example. So the CAN controller related aspect within the controller that you can eliminate.
I can make it a specific question in this case. The supplier hasn't given the failure in time, actual failure in time. It is as per SN norms. Whatever base fit is given is as per SN norms. That is 80 fit. So now to that component, do I have to consider it according to my application, considering the temperature profile and the working profile of my application?
The 80 feet, yeah, based on your profile that you need to reconsider. But if it has not been already considered by the customer, I mean, whoever given to you.
Yeah, actually the supplier has given it based on the transistor number of transistor counts.
Correct.
So that is SN as per SN norm.
Correct. So they also do internally. For example, your customer maybe a TA or somebody else. Okay.
Yeah.
So they will also use their own mission profiles for calculating the fit values. Okay. So if that consideration already been taken care by them, then you can directly use. But I'm not sure about in this aspect. Okay. Otherwise, you need to apply the way how it is going to be used from the item perspective.
Okay. With that, the fit value has drastically reduced. So is it okay if I consider it according to my profile, application profile?
Yeah, if your values are correct and whatever the stress and other things that you have considered, if those are correct, then you can consider.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in my project, if I want to reduce this SPFM, I mean, what and all ways I can try to reduce. I'm like if I taken care diagnostics, and if I taken care all the software implementation, other things, in what ways I can try to reduce, I mean, increase this SPFM.
Yeah. See, basically, it's all depends on the capability of the safety mechanism which can detect the percentage, right? So one thing is, yes, you can reduce, you can increase the diagnostics capability of your the system. Okay, for each level, what are level you identified, and that will help you to increase your SPFM value.
Yeah, I mean, I reached my saturation in the diagnostics, means I have taken care everything about my diagnostics and all. Next phase, if I want with the diagnosis, I'm unable to reach my SPFM. What precaution I can take to improve my SPFM?
Yeah, also you can change the component failure rate. I mean, based on the failure rate also, the SPFM will play a role. Okay, so identify the component with appropriate failure rate, so that will also give an impact.
Okay, we can change. You mean
The third level,
check for the alternative? You mean?
Correct. Yes. But sometimes that will also may not help 100%. In that case, you need to change the design. For example, for one design, you might have used maybe 25 components. Okay. In case if that can be converted with the lesser component with the lesser the failure rate, then probably that will also contribute for your SPFM value. But that would be the major changes that may not be your customer interested.
Yeah, got it.
Hello, Sivakumar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Sivakumar. It's Stuart Powell here from Tata Motors European Technical Centre.
No, I'm not getting you. Sorry?
Shiva, it's Stuart Powell from Tata Motors European Technical Centre.
Yeah, please.
Hi. Firstly, thank you for an excellent presentation. Thank you very, very much indeed. Okay. I have two quick questions. The first one is, do you have any idea of when ISO 26262 will become a regulated requirement in India? Do you want to answer that one first?
So thing is, yes, in India we are following it up. Okay, so there is no regulatory to it's not become a mandatory point of view.
Not yet, no. Do you know when?
Sorry?
Do you know when, or any view as to when, what dates will become regulatory?
There are some of the norms that India is bringing in, and strategically that what are the safety features and would be available in the vehicle systems. That is being mandatory by the Indian government. However, specific to the standard process and implementation perspective, that there is no clarity yet.
No. Okay. My second question is your point about the need for a functional safety assessor to conduct the functional safety assessment. You stated that that person or that body needs to be external. Does that mean external to the business, or does that mean just independent to the engineering function conducting the safety assessment?
So basically, from the standard perspective, it may not be really mandatory to be the the independent. Even independent in the sense like TUV kind of may not be required. However, the assessment has to be done in an independent. It may be, for example, the supplier developing a product. It may be the customer can do the assessment. Okay, so that different department wise or different organization can perform the kind of assessment, and that is also depends on the ISO 26262 bringing the confirmation measures. There is a detailed table available wherein what are the important work product which undergo for a different kind of the independency level with respect to SC level that is being given. So that need to be followed.
Okay, so having a separate quality assurance team conducting the assessment within the business would be acceptable?
Yes, within that organization, if you have a different department is performing the assessment, would be acceptable. But okay. The important thing is the other department also should be having the functional safety expertise in the expert level.
Yes. So process ownership and product and quality assurance together combined to conduct the assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dhanavan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Shiva. This is Yogesh here. I just want to know what are different DFA methods available for this functional safety 26262.
Yeah. It's a good question. Basically, like in 2011, there were no much explanation in the standard, but in 2018, they have given a very elaborated way. The DFA has to be performed at various level, that system level, hardware level, and software level also. At each level, you need to see with the perception of the common cause failure and the cascading failure. So it is also says that if you have that, the input would be that the FMEA or FTA. Okay, from there you can able to pick the initiator. I mean the common cause initiator. So based on that you can do the analysis. Okay, so which basically it should address the common cause and the cascading failure aspect of it.
Okay, but any methods are available, or it's like just you have to find the initiator of this failure and then you can differentiate it with fault tree and other techniques?
So one thing is they have given a very elaborated table where they explained that at each level, like system level, hardware level, software level, what are could be the initiator. That they have given a very detailed table. Along with that, in the software part, if you go through the annexer E, okay, they also give that the software level how to understand and interpret the dependent failure and how to handle it. So those aspects also they nicely explained in the latest version.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shiva, one question on my side. This is regarding, say, functional safety, this ISO 26262. How does it relate to the production process? Does it have any does it have any requirements for the production process as well?
See, production related that instructions that need to be followed. Okay, that would come from the designer. For example, if you consider I'm the product developer, okay, which I know about my product well. Okay, what are need to be the consideration that I will be giving to the production guy. They have to follow that aspect. Other than that, what are the production process which they already follow? In that, they will be accommodating the the new requirement or the consideration which I am giving from my the safety critical aspect of it. In that way, it works.
Okay. So there are no additional requirements from the ISO 26262 for
ISO directly not talking, but example wise it is talking. For example, you are designing your hardware. Okay, the hardware having some electronic component which requires some heat sink. For example, okay. For example, if the heat sink, what is the kind of target need to be given for tightening the heat sink and the component? Okay, that kind of information which the designer have to give. For example, if you are not giving such kind of information, there would be a loose contact. Number one, possible. So in that case, the heat may not be dissipated properly. That is one aspect. The other aspect would be, in case if you over tight, then there will be a possibility of component breakage. That is the other kind of issues, right? So like that, there may be a possible problem in the production side that must be avoided by giving a proper explanation or proper instruction to the production guys. Such kind of information is available in the standard.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hello, Shiva.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, hi, this is Liz. I have a question related to the FFI. So what are the techniques available for FFI? How is it different from the DFA?
Okay. See, the freedom from interference, there are three different components which talks about by ISO. One is the memory related. So the memory related problems is with respect to the memory corruption. Here we very much bother about the memory when it get corrupted by having a different SL component interacting each other, due to which the lower SL level component may go and get it corrupted by to the higher end component data. That must be avoided. For that, enable the memory protection unit and separate the memory region for a different SL level, and bringing the a kind of access privileges to different memory region to different SL level, so that can be handled. The other thing is with respect to the timing and execution related aspect. So, for example, if you are not, the problem with respect to timing and execution related things is the live lock conditions, deadlock conditions, also the blocking of executions, also along with the sequence related aspect, sequence of data, also timeout related, those aspects also it get affected. For that, you will be having a proper scheduler, the resource management like semaphores, mutex kind of things. Also like the program sequence counter, and along with the watchdog, you will be also monitoring the program sequence and also the timeout monitoring and so on. So through which you can able to address the timing and the related aspect. And third one is communication related aspect. So the communication, you know that the problem with the communication is the data loss, or delay in data, or maybe a corrupted data and so on. So in order to avoid these things, you will be having a end-to-end protection where you will be having a CRC check, timeout monitoring, sequence monitoring. Also, like there are the source verification techniques and so on. So if you bring such kind of the safety mechanisms, that will ensure the communications aspect kind of failures. So these are the the various techniques and methods suggested for freedom from interference aspect. Is it clear? Yes.
Yeah, that's clear. So additional to this, we'll be doing some more activities in the DFA part, or
sorry, I'm not.
failures and cascading failures.
Yes. Yes, cascading failure is coming under FFI, where you will be also taking care of, for example, the error propagation. So that is the coming under the cascading failure. So you need to also avoid the error propagations. So how can we do that? By ensuring each and every level that you will be verifying your data and then you will be processing it. So this is applicable when you handle a multiple ASIL level in the single process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will just say we can take 2 more questions. Shiva, is that fine? We can take 2 more questions and we will wrap up.
Yeah, fine for me.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Shiva, this is Praveen.
Yes, Praveen.
I'd like to know, like in system safety analysis, so we are doing FTA and FMEA. So when we are doing that at the system level, is it also mandatory to do the FMEA and FTA at the software level?
See, each level they have given a different set of recommendations. Okay. So when I say the software level, usually the industry best practice, the way how they are doing, they are not really doing much about the FTA in the software level, but FMEA compulsorily they are doing, and that too they are doing at the function level, not variable level.
Okay.
Okay, because this software level and the system level are two different aspects and level. Okay, it's supposed to be done at both level.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one question, right? I have two systems inside my boundary, right? And both are in series. Just the job of one system is to calculate the required torque, and second one is just to deliver that, like the inverter. So both are in series and inside our item boundary. So now we need to give the SL, right? Allocate the SL to both the system. So because both are in series and we are getting higher SL for inverter, right? So do we need to put similar SL for both the systems, or there is any process to just reduce the SL for for anyone with the first one, right?
Unless you do the SL, see, based on the input, what I understand from you, I am explaining you, but it's required a detailed study on that. However, here I can say you that, like, unless otherwise you do decomposition, it is required that both are at the same SL level. But practically, we need to also see the feasibility, what is available in that. Okay. So based on that, is that sufficient, or any other additional safety mechanism which we need to bring, through which we can able to meet the required SL level, that we need to look at the design.
Okay.
Thanks.
Rafi here. This regarding chapter 9 of ASIL analysis. There exists a coexistence of two elements. So, could you give some examples? How can we analyze that in case of if two ASIL A elements can ASIL B safety?
Yeah. See, for example, when you handle a multiple SL level, what ISO says, either you have to make it a proper independency, which may not interact and interfere. Otherwise, you need to make all are the same level of higher SL level. What the block having it. So based on that, you can approach. That is coexistence criteria. It is also almost relevant to the freedom from interference aspect of it. Okay. So in that case, if I wanted to make it two or two independent, then it will not be like playing any role of doing any competition or something like that. That you need to ensure. Okay. See, for example, the lower SL level component which is coming to the higher SL level component. Okay. And in that you need to deliver the same level of SL level output. I mean the higher level. So in that case, whatever which you are receiving as a lower level SL component as an input, you need to first validate and make it that required SL level what is to be delivered. Okay, so then based on that the output can be delivered, or you have to attach with some safety mechanism to this particular input which you are getting from outside, and together we have to make it as under logic. From that under logic you can able to deliver the output. Okay, so such kind of principle that need to be followed.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think Mr. Sivakumar, we are going beyond the time.
Okay.
So we can conclude. Yeah, any questions? Probably in the chat box, we have given the email ID. They can send to the email ID, then we can get back.
Okay, so from my side, thank you very much for the nice opportunity given to me, and I hope this is a very well start. And in my this one, I have covered the very top level view of ISO 26262 and its the implications and the process that need to be followed. And I hope the rest of the webinar will conclude the other things in a detailed way. Okay, so thank you very much once again, all of you, for SAE and TUV SUD, and also all the participants. Thank you very much from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my privilege to propose the the vote of thanks on behalf of SAE India, and on my behalf, I thank our speaker, Mr. Sivakumar TUV SUD, for sharing his knowledge and introducing the functional safety. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sivakumar. Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.